Today, in a desiring spouse, it can be difficult to distinguish who is presented by God and who is presented by the adversary. Everyone that we may have an interest in, or they may have an interest in us, does not mean that they are meant to have access to our hearts. The Bible says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. On Stopping the Silence, we are declaring life and wholeness over our single season. Stopping the Silence LLC presents to you Courtship Tea Talk. On Courtship Tea Talk, we are stopping the silence about the different obstacles and triumphs in seeking an intentional courtship, the Kingdom way. The masculine voices and the feminine voices are stopping the silence about the difference between dating, courtship, and marriage. So, grab your tea and join in on the Courtship Tea Talk with Madam D in Stopping the Silence.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Courtship Tea Talk. And we're just so excited for episode 3. And we have 2 new masculine voices that's coming on the show, and they're going to bless us in their way. And we're just going to bring everybody on right now. Welcome, masculine voices. Welcome to the show. So like I said, we have 2 new masculine voices. We have Andrew Crawley Jr. and we have Brax B. So introduce yourselves and let's get this ball rolling. Start with Brax B. Who are you and what season are you in?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Brax B, and I am a son. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a 2-time author, and what I do to make an honest living, I am a motivational, inspirational speaker, traveling to many schools and businesses, trying to motivate them to do the right thing and help them do the right thing and make a business for themselves. And I'm just full-time entrepreneur, and that's what I do. And I am in the season of marriage, coming up on 8 years in August. 8 years in August. So yeah, we've been together for 11 years. So marriage for 8. So that's the season I'm in right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on Stopping the Silence, the Courtship Tea Talk. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Are you welcome? Andrew Crawley, thank you for coming on Stopping the Silence. Tell us about yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. My name is Andrew Crawley. I am the Christian author of this book, The New Age Vernacular, Exposing the Worldly Language that Christians Use. The reason why I'm so excited about this book is because this is something that anybody can't get around. I promise you, you are around this type of language all the time. Why the church and the unchurched use it, and we don't even realize how deceitful it is because the enemy has put it in place to whereas we can quote scripture while simultaneously standing in the way of the message that the scripture is trying to bring. So get their book, The New Age Vernacular. That's what it's all about. And I am definitely excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. I am in a season of marriage where as coming up on 15 years of marriage to my wife, Ashley Crawley. And we are the parents of our lovely daughter, Olivia, who is 7 years old. And we are here in the Greensboro, North Carolina area. Thank you so much again for having us. And just real quick, I took a peep at the first couple of shows that you guys had, and these brothers who I'm graced to be on the panel with was dropping some nuggets. Brothers, I saw you, and thank y'all so much for again allowing me just to be a part because there was already wisdom on the panel. Thank y'all so much.
Are you welcome? We're excited to have you. All right, we're so excited to have episode 3. We got so many great reviews on episode 1, so we just can't wait to just dive right into it. All right, so the first question, we're gonna start with Slater. The first question is, why is this so hard for a Christian man to allow a woman to take lead sometimes in certain situations?
For me, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm on this new MacBook, and I don't know how to work it. So if y'all hear my notifications go off, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Somebody tell me how to turn them off later. But anyway, for me, I believe it is the level of vulnerability that it takes to trust someone with leadership. For me, it is probably the unspoken pressure that is put on men many times, whether it be put on us by society or ourselves. It is the unspoken pressure to be everything. And sometimes relinquishing that leadership can make us feel at times inadequate of being what we were told we should be, which is everything. To relinquish leadership at times says to some men, maybe they're weak. To have to relinquish leadership to some men may make them feel as if they are inadequate. And so the best thing I believe to help bring solution to that is that when women have a chance to take the lead, learning how to take the lead, but still graciously give the ultimate decision back to the man, because that is the kingdom order.
All right. What about you, Nathan?
In my opinion, I think it depends on the dynamic of the relationship itself. For many men like myself, growing up in a single parent household, and you're used to seeing the mothers, the grandmothers, the women in your life that are in the leadership roles, you know, and trying their best to carry the load. And most of us grow up as younger men into grown men into our adult years, trying our best to be the men that would facilitate a trajectory change in that type of learned behavior. So when you end up in a situation where you want to, you know, where a woman wants to take the lead, it can be challenging based on your dynamic. Another issue that I found that sometimes makes it a little more difficult is people not having a full understanding of leadership and partnership. You have to really understand that there's a time and place for each. And a lot of times people don't realize that we need to be partners. And in order to be a partner, you have to see that person as an equal to you. And as a man, we have to understand that even the help me, women were created not to be our competition, but to be our complement. So it can be difficult based on the paradigm, you know, that the individual may have, and also the dynamic in which they were raised in.
I love it. I love it. Will?
Well, first, good evening, brothers. How y'all doing? And Madam D. With this question, it's a little different for me because I was raised with my mother and father, and I see my grandmother and my grandfather. And my grandfather told me one time marriage is like you have a tag team partner in wrestling. You have different things that somebody's more better at than others. And then at the same time, y'all come together both to um, conquer the obstacle together. And I feel that with men giving the lead role to women, like Slater said, society has made you feel like you're weak when you do that. But pride is like the worst thing in a relationship in general. If you have pride to ask for help, too much pride to ask for help, you're going to fail. And I feel like it's okay if the woman takes the lead, but in taking the lead, you still have to make the man feel as the lead or the king, or make him feel like a man. Don't take the lead and then push him and bring him down. And that's what is the biggest problem with it, because then feel like if a woman gets the lead, then she go take over. Now she wear the pants or whatever like that. So it's a trust factor and a respect factor when it comes to that.
All right, Braxby.
Man, piggybacking off of all of these guys, man, it's we're gonna be drinking a lot of tea tonight. But for me, in the same situation as Will, I grew up with my mother and father, and seeing my father take control or take the lead most times in whatever it is that they were doing and handling in the house, whether it was with us or whether it was some matters that had to be dealt with. Dad would always take the role, and how seeing that growing up, you can only have but so much power to where it's like, no, I want to take the lead on this. I really don't want to hand this over, because like the fella said, it gives you a sense of inadequacy, and you don't want that to feel like it's taken away from your power or your reign or the force that you have as the man of the house. And some guys, some gentlemen feel that if I do relinquish my power or relinquish that the advantage of taking over this situation, they feel like they are their value has been diminished. Some guys feel that way, and that's all I have to say about that, because these guys right here are powerful. So
thank you. All right, what about you, Andrew?
Yeah, and I would say, I know we're allowed to be biblical on a Christian show. Are we also allowed to be un-American? And the reason why I say that is because, and part of my vantage point is that the work that I do and I see in the kingdom is that I see how culture infiltrates our thinking. And what we try to do a lot of times is we look at the Bible, but through an American lens, to whereas the moment we attach America to the scriptures, now it no longer means its foundational meaning. And so what we have to do when we come back to relationships is we got to re-examine not what we in culture think, but what does God say? Because we do know the enemy has a way of making bondage seems like a reward. And so we got to understand, when we go back to Eve and Adam, something took place to where God came in and say, I want to set this boundary. Now, a lot of times when we look at boundaries, we look at them as something wrong, but actually on the other side of godly boundaries is bondage. And so the reason why I say all that is because culture sometimes, when I look at that question, I'm asking myself, trying to read between the lines, okay, now what do we mean when we say let the woman lead sometime? Because of course, in that loaded question, it depends on the context. Okay, is she leading with picking what we're going to eat for dinner tonight? Or, it's different. It's levels to it, and I get that. But ultimately, in whatever she leads, or we say we will allow her to lead in, just like my brother said earlier, as long as it ultimately comes back around to the visionary of the home, setting the order of the home. And again, I understand it's totally un-American, but the reason why I say that, it's just like, for example, if you lead a church, right? If the pastor leads the church, but then you have a kitchen committee, and you say, well, listen, the pastor ain't over the kitchen committee, he's just over the whole church. So he relinquished the right to, listen, govern the kitchen, because you're a better cook than I am, just govern the kitchen. So that right to govern the kitchen is there, but guess what? The kitchen is not going to be governed not in such a way that it's outside the umbrella of the vision for that church. And so that would be the same thing, because I do get it. Sometimes men, we need to have this common sense enough to know that sometimes we should listen to our women, because she may be better at budgeting than I am. If she's better with numbers, then fine, let her have at it, because I'm going to mess something up if I'm not as good as numbers what she are. So there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you say, listen, deal with the numbers in this way. And so when she get finished with the numbers, she asks you, is this pleasing to the vision of the house? If that makes sense.
Courtship tea talk.
Good.
All right. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. The next question is, why do most men look for women to be like their mothers or grandmothers? We can start with Will.
Lord have mercy. This is was personal. I went through that, and it's a thing of, I can't speak for all men. I'm gonna speak for me. It's a thing of, I guess, having something that is familiar. We want, men are, we operate real different. We operate with, it's very easy for us, but we operate with certain things that have to be familiar with. We have a certain schedule we like to have, or certain things we like to do. And with having something that's familiar, we look for women to be, I wish somebody finds somebody cook like my mama, or fold clothes like my mama. My mama wash with this and stuff like that. And it's a thing of, you have to find yourself. Men have to understand who they are without their parents, without their mother, without their grandmother. they have to find their true self. Like for me, I started going on trips by myself. I started literally, I would go about every quarter. I'd get a hotel, drive to a city, and be in a room by myself. Me, myself, my PlayStation, and music, and my Bible. That's it. Get away, really get to know your inner self, your true self. What things you might not like. Go to a restaurant you normally don't go before. Break that habit of having the things that are always there. Because when your mother is gone, when your grandmother's gone, you don't want to be left there with nothing. And the woman that was God had sent for you, you pushed her away because she couldn't cook collard greens like your mama.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing of breaking habits and breaking you have to change your mindset. I put it like that. My pastor would say you have to change your mindset.
Yes. Braxby.
Again, piggybacking off of what Will said is familiarity. And guys choose to some guys choose to look for women who are like their mothers or their grandmothers because mothers are nurturing, grandmothers are nurturing, they're loving, they can cook a great meal, and guys look for that when after they come home from a long day at work, they're looking for something to eat, they're looking for that love, they're looking for that affection, that attention, just to be hugged, just to be able to put their head in their lap and just sit there and have their hair rubbed. Like those are the things that they've experienced as a child or they experience through their whole life. And when they get to a point to where they are old enough to venture off on their own and try to find a wife or find that woman that's for them, they try to look for those same elements that their mother or their grandmother gave them when they were younger. And that's why they try to find that. But for myself, I can only speak for myself. Like Will said, I wanted to search for something different. And my wife, we'll talk about her later. But my wife, she has some of those attributes that my mom had due to the fact that she sat down and she spoke with my mom. She wanted to understand, how do I love him? Mm-hmm. What is it that I can do to make him feel like he is the man? What can I do? And when they had that conversation, which I had no idea about, to be honest with you at first, it was a shock to me because it was like, wow, she really wants to understand how to make me feel like we need to be together. And so that's what I wanted to search for. But for the sake of the question, there are guys who search for women like their mothers or their grandmothers due to familiarity.
Mm-hmm. Andrew?
Yes, and I just agree with what my brothers have already stated, because, mothers and grandmothers are part of, foundation. And so sometimes just out of familiarity, I want to see how far am I breaking away? Am I aborting my foundation, or can I see part of my foundation in you if we're going to celebrate, that? And so I think it just comes back down to familiarity, because then there's some that have a zigzag. There's some that look for the total opposite, of what their mothers and grandmothers were. And I guess even a greater question is, should we be, given that context? And of course, it definitely varies from family to family. But my mother and grandmother were definitely jewels in my life. And so, I just think, just like my brothers, in a brief sense, that it just comes back down to, the familiar.
Nathan?
And the ideal behind it mirrors that of kind of like what women do with their fathers. And that oftentimes that's funny because that ends up being the one type of man that they normally run from the majority of their life. And then one day something clicks and they said, you know what, this is what I need to do. But as it relates to a man, it's relative. I myself have been there at a point in my life because I'm extremely, extremely close to my grandmother. I am a grandmother's baby. We're extremely close. But I had to realize something in my adult years. I had to realize that yearning and desire for that frame of reference, that sense of security, that sense of familiarity was rooted in something that men have to really be honest with themselves about. And that thing that I'm referring to is you have to get to a point in your life, if you haven't already, where you reconcile and heal the boy in you. Because oftentimes that's that aspect of your psyche that is reaching for something that either you didn't get or something that you're afraid to let go of in fear of what you may be able to receive in exchange for giving up that thing.
Teach, sir.
The other thing is you have to get to a point where you are willing to break out of the paradigm, especially as kingdom men. We have to get to the point where we break out of the paradigm of what love and what my wife is supposed to be. And you know, because it may not look like your mother, your grandparents. It may not look like anything you have ever seen. What you may be called to be and the love that you may be called to facilitate may be the first thing your family has ever seen. And if you don't have the right mindset, you would treat your women differently, because if you are looking for her to be like your grandmother, you are searching for complacency rather than a challenge.
Wow. Slater.
Slater, don't stop.
We gonna have to refill these cups.
I'm over here going crazy right now, man. Yo, Andrew started it off for me. K. Nathan, just good gracious. So I'm gonna take those two, and I'm gonna wrap mine up with everything that all of y'all said. Good gracious, this was a good one. So I'm gonna use one word that I heard nobody use that is synonymous with the word familiarity, and that is intimacy. The first person you were ever intimate with, let's stop thinking sexual. When we use the word intimate, we always think sex. That is not what the word intimacy means.
Yeah.
That means a place of closeness, a knowledge or connection to something that is so great that it literally defines the security of who you are as a person. Your mother's the one you found security in. Outside of the security of safety, your insecurities were most of the time pushed away because of what your mama said about you. Come on, when everybody else said you were ugly, your mama said you the most handsome thing I ever seen. When everybody said that Negro just bad, your mama said my son ain't bad. My son just got some issues. There's a level of just intimacy that comes from a mother, that comes from a grandmother, to the point where we have just as much faith in them as we do a chair. When you're going to sit in a chair, you don't ask yourself, is this chair going to hold me? You flop your hind parts right down in it, because a chair is supposed to. It's supposed to hold me. It's supposed to be able to handle the pressure I put on it. Because mother and grandmother knew how to handle the pressure. I'm not asking my woman to be my mother or my grandmother. I just need to know I can be as intimate with you without ever touching you, without ever looking in places that I've looked all my life, because now I got to go where Nathan was talking. Some of us had good daddies, but not good fathers. So some of us, we need something completely, extremely opposite from how we were raised. Because some of our daddies were allowed to get away with murder, and mama protected him. Some of our daddies were allowed to be whatever they wanted to be, and it was because of mama covering their mess that made them who they were. So now we grow up And we want to be better than that. Not realizing in order to be better than that, I got to unlearn everything I saw.
That's it.
But I have to have somebody on my side that's patient enough with me to help me detox. I need somebody patient enough with me that's going to let me make a mistake and not beat me across the head for it. Because some of us also had mamas who would say stuff like, you just like your daddy.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard certain things throughout our lives that were either detrimental or substantial to us. And you don't realize until you're an adult, and I know I got a witness in the house, sometimes you don't realize which is which until you get older. That's why a man will abuse a woman, because he saw it all his life and he didn't realize it was wrong because that's all he ever saw. So now that you're older, walking into a place of maturity, you finally realize even some of them things that I used to look up to my daddy for were completely wrong.
Completely.
But I'm not saying it's right to want your mother or somebody like your grandmother. I'm not saying it's wrong to want somebody like your mother or your grandmother. I'm simply saying, can we get that intimacy that allows me to be who God says I am? Because mama didn't see you for what the neighbors saw you for. Mama saw you for who God said you were. Your mama said, that's my child. Your God says, that's my child. And that's all I need. Somebody who will be intimate enough with me to where even when I'm wilding out, even when I'm tripping, that's not him. My baby is bigger than that. My baby just having some issues right now, but he'll be okay soon. Last thing I'm going to say, and I'm done. Nothing like hearing mama and grandma say, it's going to be all right. Am I intimate enough with you to believe that it's going to be all right? Because, baby, if you tell me it's going to be all right, I promise you I'm going to get out there tomorrow and act like ain't nothing happened, and I'm going to turn into a slam warrior, and I'm going to win this house back. But I can't win it back if you got your foot on my neck. I need you building me up. I need you intimate enough with me to say, that's my baby.
Woo.
My goodness.
Lord. Do anybody have anything to say after that one?
Lord have mercy.
Woo. The next question is, times have changed and sometimes the woman makes the most money out of the relationship. What are your thoughts about a man making, what are your thoughts about a man asking a woman first for money? And we're going to start with Braxby on this one.
Ooh, times have definitely changed on this. And hey, we're being transparent here. My wife makes more than I do, and that's perfectly fine because she went to school for something that's way more lucrative than I went to school for. She's a dentist, and she's a chief dental officer for her company or organization, and she calling the big shots. So I'm just here supporting her, making sure she do what it do.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this again. We talked about pride before, but in my opinion, I push my pride to the side, and I do not ask for money first. I don't ask because, again, we are a partnership, and we make the dynamic of our house work together. She brings in her money, I bring in my money. We put it together. We make things work. If you are asking for money, that to me seems like a gentleman who is begging and not trying to help on his behalf for what the house is assigned for. And that's just my opinion speaking. And I think that it's not okay for a man to just ask. Bring something to the table first and see how you can make it work. You have to bring something to the table. Again, it's a partnership. And some guys don't like to do the partnership thing because, oh, she make more money than me. I gotta go out and make more money than her. Nah, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Again, if you are in a partnership, you see she out here grinding, you go ahead and take your hind parts out in this world and you grind too. Find something else that's gonna help bring some more money into this house so y'all can make things happen the way you want it to happen. So my thoughts about a man asking a woman for money first is something that sits a little funny with me, but that's just the way that I am. That's the way I was brought up, and that's the way it's gonna be, and that's my story. I'm sticking to
it. Nathan,
I'm with Braxton. I have a problem if a man is asking a woman for money. That also doesn't sit well with me. Yes, times have changed, but no matter how the times change, there are certain dynamics that should not change. Like prime example, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who makes the most money, because the times may change, but there are certain roles. And I know we're living in a society where people don't want to talk about gender roles and everybody want to be this, that, and the other, but women a lot of times want to be masculine, but when it's time to take out the garbage, you want to be feminine. So there are certain positions that have not changed, because at the end of the day, that money should not be the determining factor. And I think sometimes money can be used as a form of manipulation. It also, I hate to say this, but a lot of times, especially in the African-American community, it is used to keep a man in a sense of bondage, because women will use, for whatever reason, her ability to earn more, for whatever reason, to belittle and demasculate that man, not realizing who that man is. If you have a real man is invaluable, because a real man should have and does have the equipment, especially if he's a man of God and a kingdom man. He has the ability to do things that money cannot do anything with. Prime example, money can't cover you. Money can't lead you. Money can't guide you. Money can't war for you when the enemy's trying to come in like a flood. Money can't do that. So, said all that to say, I have a problem with a man asking a woman for money. And if he's doing so, I feel as though some things need to change. Perhaps you need to, have a shift in your thinking, live within your means, read The Millionaire Next Door. I mean, get out of what society is saying, because whatever provision that you have, you should be able to live within that provision without asking. Even if she is making more, you carry your load and do what you got to do.
Andrew?
First of all, I like to say we need to collect the offering, because these, and it ain't enough tea to drink for all these nuggets that's been dropped. I just want to start there. But and I would say this is different. If we're talking about dating relationships, yeah, red flags should go up if he's asking for money in the beginning. I would tell my daughter to run. Now, if we're talking about marriage, totally different. Why? Because it's amazing how we preach that we are one, but we don't act like it in covenant. And here's one thing I want to say. And prime example, my wife, we're both business owners, and we have been for, full-time business owners for over a decade now. And her business, she has, for the majority of our marriage, she have brought in more money than myself. But here's the thing. More money don't equal who has the most authority in the house. See, one of the problems with men and women, one of the biggest things we have is an identity crisis. See, you don't let happenings dictate what you do or who you are. You let who you are dictate the happenings. And so if everything wells from identity, I'm going to be who I am regardless of who make the most. And so when it comes to our households, so yeah, bring that money on in here, because guess what? Whose money is it? Whose last name is it under? We both share the same last name, and you bring all that money in, and then I'm going to let you know what's going to happen with the money, how it's going to line up with the house. Now, here's the thing. A lot of that sounds troubling to the American ear, but I'm so glad that God and Jesus, one of the most phenomenal scriptures in the Bible when it comes to marriage that I think is talking about how it should relate, how it should emulate that of Christ and the church. Here's one thing that I'm glad about Jesus. He showed me how to have authority and not be fearful that someone is going to abuse it. See, because here's one thing that we need to understand. My wife bringing the money, yeah, and I'm going to tell her this is what we're going to do. And guess why that will be easier to understand, even to an American woman who is bound by American culture like we all are. It is to this. It is because I see what men have to do, we have to set a track record of security before our wives' eyes. She needs to know that the last time I put money in his hands, the savings account grew. The last time I put money in his hands, bills got paid on time. Even when I made the most money, I was irresponsible. But when I put it in the visionary's hand of the house, which he does things, guess not based on happiness, but based on who we are. And that should be the focal point. Our marriages and people, and we would do things better if we understand these two things as men. First of all, if we did whatever it takes to convince our women that we have their best interest in mind regardless. That's number one. Number two is, have your life made it so much so that she understands that my life is better carrying his last name. Men, if you can do those two things, women will bring the money home, even if it's more or less, and be like, honey, what are we doing? Because you have shown me a track record to believe the fact that I'm better off carrying your last name. And so my wife can look at anybody and say, you know what, I was a Greenlee before I was a Crawley. But Crawley has brought me way better than Greenlee ever could. And I'm not saying that to boast in me, because I'm not saying I've been the best leader, but through the grace of God and her doing what God has asked her to do for a husband who hadn't been perfect, some of the covering is dripping off onto her behalf. And so her life is easier the more that she follows my leadership.
You got me excited about getting married again. Good God Almighty.
Slater.
Before I answer this question, gentlemen, especially our new gentlemen, the key to it is baby sips. Right? Baby sips. Because if you up there gulping with all this goodness, your cup gonna be gone 2 questions in. So the key to it is baby sips. All right. I'm going to say, so when you fill up for the next time, just know, but I have to agree with Brother Andrew, Brother Brax, and Brother Nathan, and say, first of all, I'm on their side with it. My granddaddy used to always say, any man looking for a dime got to be a quarter himself. So I feel like at the end of the day, what you bring to the table, whether it is financially valuable or not, you got to be bringing something valuable to the table. As it pertains to this particular question about women making more money than men and men asking for money first, I agree again that a man has to have something. Why? We shouldn't even be desiring, hear me clearly, especially young men, especially 2021 men. We should not be desiring marriage if we can't put a woman in a house. And I'm not talking about, some $500,000 house. I'm saying, do you have your own home? Are you talking about marriage, but you live with your grandma? Are you talking about marriage, but you've never once left home? Are you talking about marriage, but have never once successfully paid every bill on time? Are you talking about marriage, but have you even once had a credit score over 590? These are real questions we got to ask ourselves. Are we ready for what we ask for? So the first thing is, are you even ready for a relationship, for marriage? The second thing is, when we talk about, again, I love how Brother Crawley said it about this Americanized version of what this thing really looks like. We got it backwards. We got it backwards. Even a woman making more money than a man, that man is still the priest of that house. That man is still the visionary of that house. Now, I have to be honest and say, love my dad, but money should not belong in my daddy's hand. So in my house, my mother took his check and did what was supposed to be done with it, because my mother could make little much. And my dad got a little excited when he saw a couple of dollars. So, men, we also have to be honest. If your woman is the CFO of that house, you might be the CEO. But if your woman is the CFO, the chief financial officer of the house, and what she has done has grown you into an empire, then we have to learn where we need to relinquish ourselves as well. I've learned finances, contrary to popular belief, actually do a lot better in women's hands than they do men. I'm just saying. I know Madam D's gonna drink to that, but I'm just saying it's the truth. I've seen it. I've seen it in my own family. I've seen it in so many other people, and I've seen men literally who credit women with if the woman hadn't done certain things, they wouldn't even be the man they are today. Our very own former president, Barack Hussein Obama, gives Michelle Obama all credit for who he became and why he is where he is. We have so many spiritual leaders who will tell you, no, that wife got me straight. That wife took that checkbook. She might not have, done it in the nice way that we wanted her to do it in, but it wasn't until she took it to show me what she could do to where our empire started growing. I'm here to tell you, men, that is an area we have to learn to be honest in. Now, I ain't saying all men are terrible with money. If you better with the money, get the money. Build a house. But I also know that there's a verse that says that a wise woman buildeth her house, but a foolish woman plucketh it down with her own hands. So women have the capability given by God to build a house. And I don't believe that's just a physical house. I believe when you walk into the physical edifice, what makes that thing a home is the woman's touch. What makes that thing feel peaceful? Come on, men who are married, you know when that peace ain't there, when that woman all jacked up, you sit in the driveway for 2-3 hours before you walk into that house. It's something about when that woman got peace, that house is a home. And I got to tell you straight up that that's where we got to be and really understand that if this is what's going to make us what we're supposed to be, we might have to learn to relinquish some stuff. Homes are better when women are happy. Homes are better when women bring that peace together. Of course, we believe in happy spouse, happy house. But I'm just telling y'all men know things are different when that woman ain't right. When she got an issue, that changes the whole house. You can walk around there mad as you want to be. Come on, man. You can walk around there mad as you want to be.
Come on, man.
Does that matter? Them kids walk around with daddy tripping. Daddy tripping. But let mama get mad. Kids going crazy. Now they straighten up. Daddy walking on eggshells. Daddy talking about, hey, boo. He ain't called her boo in 15 years. Hey, boo. How you doing, girl? Women got that power. We got to give it to them, and I'm done.
They do.
Well,
I ain't got nothing to say. Honestly, money is always a touchy subject for everybody because we're told money rules everything. And with money, it brings a sort of power to a person when you can swipe your card and not have to worry about a balance afterwards. That's powerful to us. That's what brings a certain dynamic to our character, who we are. So when a man asks a woman for money, it's a thing that's almost shameful because you look down on them. But at the flip side of that coin is What if that man has tried everything he's had, everything he knows how, and the only way he can survive the next day is asking someone that he trusts and loves? Because the idea of it is a man won't ask for help until he knows that person, he trusts that person, and he knows that no matter what happened, this person got his back. I'm not going to nobody that's going to talk about me, give me something to talk about me. I'd rather go to my woman if it's the last thing. And see, with a lot of men, the real men will work, we'll hustle, we'll make some things shake, we'll figure it out. Put that out there. Real men, we're gonna make some things shake before we go to the asking the women for something. Because we always, there's more than one way to skin a cat. But we can't have that much pride to where we sitting out running out of gas on the corner. That don't make sense. That's stupid. But it takes you have to have a certain trust. Now, and for a woman wise, the other side of that is the woman can't hold that against him. See, if a man did it, he's wrong, he's dogging her. But when a woman doing it, she's being right. That's wrong. It's wrong both ways. You can't give something to somebody and then have talked down on them. Like, if God bless you, but then took back all his blessing, how would you feel? God bless you with a job and then say, you know what, you ain't deserve it. I'm taking the job away from you just because you made you upset. No, it's not fair. It's not right. You have to have a certain respect level to that part. And that takes time to build a relationship. That takes faith. That takes time. Faith in God and faith in each other. That's all I got to say.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes. So we're going to do a different route right now. So the next question is, it takes a lot to bear a child. As a man that loves God, what are a few ways can a man help their wives to deal with the transition and the struggles of motherhood? And we're going to start with Nathan.
Well, I have very little to say on this. I don't have a chick, no child. I don't have a goldfish, dog. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say on this, so I'm not about to pull no rabbit out no hat.
He said, I don't have a goldfish. He said, I don't have a goldfish.
Yeah. I don't even babysit my nieces and nephews long. You know, I got very little. But okay. What I can say is what I have seen.
Yeah.
Others do. What I've seen others do on a more serious note is having a real sense of love. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about the butterfly. I'm talking about the selfless agape. And if it's your wife, loving her as Christ loved the church, the willingness to understand what women go through biologically, physically, how close they are to death, how many women actually do die in the process of childbirth, and your role in that. You have to really understand how sacred that is. You should be humbled in seeing God's hand in that process, because it's definitely God's hand to bring that into being, and into fruition. So a sense of love and strong support, and a sense of reverence, even for that woman while she's carrying, and making sure that her needs are met, making sure that her environment at all times is conducive for her safety, for her growth, And for her to have the type of safe space that if she has to say something to you, even if it's a critique in terms of something that she needs that you may not be doing, that she feels safe enough to be able to do that. Because she may be carrying the child, but it's a participatory act.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrew?
Why is it that when you look at wildlife, ducks never forget how to be ducks? Bears never forget how to be bears. Lions never forget how to be lions. Why? Because they continue passing down something that, like my brother Nathan said earlier in the show, that there's some things that never gets old. And I'm learning the more and more I grow in the things of God to love the thing that he loved, a lot of keys to life are in the foundational things that God has set for the family. Now, with that said, American Christians, in order for a man, the best thing that a man can foundationally do to help a mother with her transition to motherhood is be responsible enough and courageous. Because now we're living in the Me Too movement, we're living in the feminist movement, and we're living in outlaws and in-laws where everybody's gonna say a woman is only valuable based on her work outside of the house. God is here to tell you, do we not realize God values a woman as a mother and a wife more than a woman that's a CEO? That's a millionaire? Oh, because you want to know what? Based on how she mothers and wives determine how the gospel can go forth according to 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and Titus. And so the reason why I say all this is because what we got to do is fight what most say the American dream. I call it now the American nightmare, because houses, cars, lands, and the dream vacation now puts man and wife to do all the work outside the home. And guess what we do when it comes to parenting? We outsource parenthood and say, well, you raise our kids, they'll just spend the night with us. So the first thing we need to do is, as responsible men, is be responsible enough that you don't need her to go outside and work or the house gonna cave in. Like, honey, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put you in a position where all your cares are to take care of these babies that I impregnated you with. You ain't gotta worry about the bills. Just worry about that baby. You know what's amazing? And I'm not saying that people that use this is off. What we do, we just duplicate all that we've seen, and we don't have, some don't have evil hearts, and we don't even know where a lot of this stuff come from. But the reason why we have pumps, baby pumps and stuff, and then you take your kid that you just had weeks ago, you take him to a daycare, that's not God. What other species do you know allow another species outside of their lion's den to raise that lion cub? Don't work. And it shouldn't be with us. But you know what we did? Enemy has allowed us to normalize dysfunction. And so now this is why all of these diseases are on her, because we put too much on the woman. You got to raise the kids, you got to take care of the house, and you got to pay the bills. But if we have responsible men and say, you know what, honey? I'm going to be responsible enough that I'm going to put you in a position to take care of these babies. She won't have as many stresses that she's not designed to have anyway, because like the other brother of mine said, when you go back to Genesis, see, we try to put our women under two curses and call it a blessing. Because in Genesis, he says, I'm going to curse the man that you got to work. But you know what we do with the women? He said, I'm going to curse you for childbearing, raising, and having your wants and needs unto your husband. But that's what we do. We say, woman, you got to do that, and you got to work too. And we say she's a blessing because she don't have worth if she's just a homeowner. If she's just a housewife and a mother. And so first of all, if we got to fight that curse, and then men got to put their women in position to take care of them babies. So if the men got to go out and get the spoil of the house, we know that our babies are not outsourced by the world and by daycare, because we both trying to work to take care of this house that God didn't tell us to buy because we can't afford it. We can't afford the Lexus. Let me tell you something. Never, ever, ever, ever. One of the biggest problems with the church in the world is that we have prostituted our kids for the Lexus.
Slater.
My.
God is moving.
Sheesh. That's all I got. Sheesh. I have to step with my brother Nathan on this and say, I ain't got a goldfish. I ain't got a hamster. I ain't got a gerbil or a guinea pig. I babysit my nephew and my niece, and I'm now the new proud godparent of 2 twins. But they won't come over here till they potty train. Huh? So I'll make this as quick as I can. Good God Almighty, Dr. Crawley. I'm done. Sheesh. All I have to say is he literally said it all. And I just wish as a nation, as a society, we really could hit the reset button on why women think it is such a problem to be a housewife. And I know some of it stems from the fact that we got some trifling tail men out here. I'm trying to say it as straight as I can without.
Amen.
We got some trifling tail men out here. And so I know that's a part of it. Men, we have to do better. But if we could grab that concept of truly being a support system. I said this, I want a daughter so bad that I'm vowing to myself, I will learn how to do hair. Because if my wife is sick or if my wife just don't doggone feel like it, I want to be able to do my daughter's hair. Man, we got to stop being so masculine that we say stupid stuff like that's a woman's job. If taking care of a child was a woman's job, why the heck did it take you to help put that seed into her? If it was just a woman's job, then a woman would be able to reproduce on her own. But God made you a part of that to let you know it's your job too. Because it takes 2 to tango. Mm-hmm. And so all I'll say is, for me, I can't speak for nobody else. I'm starting now to prepare myself to help in any way I am asked to help, even if that is go sit down somewhere. You are terrible at this. It ain't gonna be because I didn't try. and I refuse to have another generation of people who are good daddies. Let me tell y'all what I mean by that. Yeah, they can buy Pampers. Yeah, they can buy Similac. They can get formula and they can show up and be there. But they don't want to be fathers. Spend time with that baby. Hold that baby. Wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, just like that woman, and put that baby back to sleep. There's a level of intimacy that men have neglected for years when it comes to their children. I will not raise another generation of men that don't want to be intimate with their children. I need my kids to want me as bad as they want their mama. I remember when my dad, and I'm done. I remember my dad used to be so scared to take care of me. Y'all want to know why? Because, and my mom and my dad were in the same house. But when my mom would leave the house, y'all, I would cry till I threw up. And my dad would hate it. But there was a level of safety I felt with my mother that I didn't feel with my father, because the time I spent with my mother, I did not spend in my father's hands, because raising kids was a woman's job. So now we get older and me and my dad my mother's passed away now. So now me and my dad are stuck to figure this relationship thing out. And it's the hardest thing ever because I'm 34. And for most of my life, he's never known me intimately. And we cannot continue to do that, gentlemen. I love my dad. This is not a bash or a disrespect. This is just a truth that his generation and the generation before that messed up on. And we have a responsibility, men, to fix that with our generation. Let's not raise another generation of children who are afraid to be intimate with their fathers because they don't even know what that feels or looks like. And I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know what it did. She might have had a issue. I didn't see her on my screen. Is she on y'all screen? She not on y'all screen either?
No,
well,
she's not.
I just wanted to say, even with what you said, because and we don't understand how all of this stuff is really connected. Like I said, everything is really tied together, has a domino effect. If we tweak something over here, it's gonna mess up something else over here. And we don't even realize, even going back to it, we got to learn how to value difference. Because see, here's the thing: I don't value the thing that does what I do. I compete with it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's are all in competition because they all serve burgers, fries, and a drink very fast.
Wow.
But see, and this is why there's been, look at it. The more feminist rights rise, the more there's a competition between a man and a woman. Wow. Because you know what the Me Too and the feminist movement says? We can do all that men can do, and men should do all that we have been doing. That's the trick of the enemy. See, I value my wife because she do what I can't do. And guess what? I tremble if ever she got to go out of town and leave me with my daughter. Listen, it don't take her leaving out of town for me to already value her because I already know what she brings to the table. And see, what we have done as men, and the church have become fearful of American culture because if we say that, oh, we're unloving. No. You can't define, first of all, what love is. The Bible does that. And if God lets us know that we complement one another, that's what makes us most valuable. I value my wife because she's different from me. Not only is she easy on the eyes, there's things that she can do that when she do around my house, it gets done better. The house smell better. All the way up till I was a bachelor. There weren't no pictures on the wall. She brings a fragrance to the house and it comes natural to her. Our problem is we are afraid. It's amazing how we speak diversity everywhere else except in the house. The place, the foundational place where the value of diversity should speak. And the reason why I love what my brother was lending to about his father is because here's what we got to do, fathers. First of all, let's understand foundationally that the reason if the kids are going to get identity, they got to get it through us, the girl and the boy. See, for the daughters, God gives the fathers to dispense identity in the whole home. He gives identity of the woman through the man. He gives identity of the kids, boy and girl, through the man. And that's what's the problem. Nobody knows who they are because of the fathers that are passive in the house. You there, but you're not there. See, woman only shows daughter her function in her identity, but she don't dispense her womanly identity. The man values the woman. Woman has no value, or she don't know of her worth unless the man in her life is responsible enough to show her who she is and then validate it. Not only are you this, you are wonderful in this. And because of that, you are filling a void that nobody else can fill. Woman of God, daughter of God. And men, if we don't give that to our kids, this is why we got to be in their life. That's why I'm amening what my brother just said, because we don't understand that's what it's costing us. Girls grow up not knowing who they are, boys, and guess what's happening? So if we don't know who we are, we allow the world to give us our identity, and we go a-whoring after the applause of men. And that is a lot of preachers in the pulpit. We go a-whoring after the applause of men because we don't know who we are, and we're searching for value because daddy in the house didn't consecrate, didn't cement our value in the home. And I'm so sorry about that, but our sisters.
No, brother, you good. I would say one more thing and I'm done with it because you just messed me up with that. Isn't it strange how position and authority was given from Genesis? And because we were bamboozled into giving it up, now we looking for something that we already had in the first place. And if we would go back to the basics and stop getting so doggone deep,
that's it.
We could put this thing back in order. I just wonder if we would have some men in the house who will stand up and just put this thing back in order. And like you said, teach that identity, because the problem is we allowed the enemy to trick us out of our identity. That's why we were so easy to give up dominion over the entire world. Woo! I'm done. Good God, I love y'all.
And we love you. My goodness.
Goodness gracious. What is going on here? What you got us into?
I had a technical difficulty, so where do we stop at?
Your computer got too hot. That's what it was.
Yes. All right. Did we go to the last question yet?
No, we were still talking on the same one, the one about bearing children.
Okay.
Will is up.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, Will.
I don't really know what to say. I think we should just dismiss. I got enough for, but being a father, my son is turning 11 this year, and had my son at 21. So I learned from two different dynamics, and I learned from my father and my grandfather, and I learned from having three mothers, my grandmothers and my mother. All five of them raised me and made me who I am today. My mother's showed me the sensitive touch that you need to have when raising a child. But my grandfather, my father, they taught me that you have to have the discipline, be able to discipline them with love, and don't be shy without telling someone that you love them. A lot of times when a child is brought into the picture of a relationship, it changes everybody's whole foundation, because the center of the focus is now the child, not each other. And that's a problem, because the center of focus should be God and all of everybody together. Lord, lead us into how to raise this child. As a man, we ask God to order our steps, but we won't take one step forward. That's a problem with raising a child, because you have to ask God, how can I help? How can I have an input with helping her with this responsibility? Money doesn't solve everything. I was a traveling musician, singing on the road, singing with quartet groups. I would be taking my son with me. I played drums, so my son had headphones on in his car seat, sitting next to me on the drum set on stage. I didn't trust anybody with him. That's my boy. It's my baby. And a lot of times it takes you have to change your mindset. Everything everyone said, it's like Slater said something, he said a reset. I believe he said we need to reset and go back to the basics. That's exactly it. Everybody has to change their mindset about relationships and get back to what is this A, B, and C. We've gotten very difficult in this world today. It's weird. It's to the point where you can't say anything. And with childbirth, it brings a different dynamic. And I just believe, this is me, that the only way to be efficient in it is ask God to order your steps. You have to go before God before y'all even start having a child. There's certain questions you need to ask. How were you raised? If you don't know how somebody is raised, you don't know how to go be a parent.
That's true.
If you don't know the mindset of someone, or how they were brought up, you will never understand them as a parent, because if y'all brought up two different ways, y'all will clash. Conversations need to be had. And then it takes, as Slater said earlier, intimacy. Y'all need to be very intimate with each other before you bring a child in the world. If you're not intimate with each other, that child is going to bring on a headache for you.
Preach.
So that's all I got. Just change your mindset. Go back to the basics. Slater said, go back to the basics. And then be able to be intimate with each other before. Have them conversations before. Know yourself first, but then know the person you're having a baby with. If you believe in beating your child, but this person believes in timeout, how you gonna raise them? How you gonna discipline them? Those are conversations that in this society we need to have. And I'm done.
I'm done, but and I just want to ask a rhetorical question. You just tore this thing to pieces, Will. How many of us understand intimacy? How many of us really understand it, or do we understand sex?
Lord have mercy.
How many of us really understand intimacy, or do we know what buttons to push? We don't know intimacy, we know toxicity, and I'm done.
Lord have mercy. Listen, for sake of time, I have a lot of ways in which I can give to help. I have a 6'4". We have a 6'4" and 2 at home, and we also have our 12-year-old nephew. And so y'all, all boys. So y'all can just imagine how wild and crazy it can get, like the old Nickelodeon show. But the one question that I asked my wife when we started having children, what is it that I can do? I don't know how many times I asked her that question. I really don't. But every time I asked that question, she had something that I could do to help her. And it took a huge load off, even if it was just washing bottles. Even if it was just go get the diapers out the room and bring them here so I can change it. And so once I got the hang of it, once I got the hang of how to change the diaper, where to throw it at, how to wash the bottles, when to wash the bottles, all of that stuff. When I got the hang of all of that stuff, all she had to do was wake up, pump, and rest. We took shifts. That's how we made it work. I'm the early morning guy, getting up 3-4 o'clock in the morning, baby crying, doing my thing, and cuddling and rocking and doing all of that stuff. And she had the late night shift and doing her motherly thing, and that's just how it worked. And like Slater said, is having that relationship with your child when you come home or when you go pick them up from daycare or whatever the case may be, and they running through the hall screaming "Daddy." That just takes that right there. Your whole day could just be going terrible. But when you go pick that little rascal up and they run into you screaming "Daddy" and hold on tight to your leg, everything else just goes out the window for that moment. So being intimate with your child, taking care of your responsibility, and getting away from what Brother Andrew said, it take two to tango. Y'all made this situation. Y'all have to deal with it together. And again, like Will said, you got to communicate. Y'all have to be intimate with each other before y'all be intimate and make this baby. Because if not, it's gonna be a whole lot of clash of the Titans. And trust me, you don't want that to happen. So the biggest question, and I in my experience with our 3 children, the biggest question, the most important question, what is it that I can do to help you? And that right there is going to solve a whole bunch of issues. And that's all I got on that one.
Anyone else before we conclude episode 3? All right. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us another episode of Stopping the Silence and the Courtship Tea Talk. I hope that you are blessed, and remember that you are not alone. May God bless you and have a wonderful night.